Brian, thanks for joining us today. Just as an introduction, I'm Hannah. I spearhead the social housing division for Yolk, and we're running a series of Meet the CEO interviews. Pleasure to have you as the first guest on Meet the CEO. So just to kick us off, are you able to tell us a bit about you and your background, and then we'll talk a bit more about CCHA.
Okay, great. So I'm Brian Pickett. I'm the relatively new Chief Exec of CCHA, which we just run the corner from this office. Thank you very much for inviting me to do this. It's not my normal operating environment. I sort of put that out there. So a bit about me. I now live in Barry. Married with two grown-up children. I can't quite believe it. 22 and a 19-year-old. I've been working quite a long time. So I'm into my 39th year of work.
Okay.
So but still, I've obviously got a zest for work and a zest for actually making things better. Originally from the top of the valleys, from Ebervale, and I just worked myself up to I find myself in this privileged position of being a chief executive of a housing association.
Yeah.
How did it happen? I don't know. So
yeah, well, you started with CCHA back in 2019 in exec function, and then, like you said, became chief exec back October last year. So, kind of your background going up to that, what got you into housing, and what interested you in the sector?
So in terms of what there was, there were only two bits of my career I had ever planned, and that was quite early on. Everything else has been tactical ever since. I found myself being to be transferred into Welsh Government, and it's not an organisation for everyone. But I ended up working on housing funding. So I was the elaborately titled Head of Innovative Finance for Welsh Government Housing. And we put together, there's myself and a fantastic individual called Carrie Sadley, put together a package of funding which funded 1,000 new affordable homes across Wales in 2012, 2013. So it was a package, it was a completely different grant regime, but what we did with that was alongside it, and with 19 housing associations, put together a capital markets debt product. And we sort of borrowed, the individual housing associations borrowed 150, 200 million pounds for this program of build. And that was I was, through that, ended up speaking with a lot of housing associations, my reputation grew amongst the finance director thing, and then got into landed the finance director's post at Rhondda Housing as a result of that. Really.
Right, okay. You haven't looked back since then? Social housing, is it in the blood now, would you say?
You've just mentioned it, and the hairs on my arms have just raised on my legs. Yeah. I've had opportunities. As you know, it has been a job seeker's market the last few years. There's been a number of opportunities. And I just said, I don't believe social housing. Yeah. It means, for me, it means so much. It is from the heart. I grew up in the council house, top end of the valley, spent all my years until I left home really in the council house. So it gets under your skin. Yeah. And I remember I was having a conversation with our health and safety manager, who's been with us for 2.5 years. He said, I remember telling me, he says, once you're in the sector, you're unlikely to leave. And this is a guy who's in his early 30s, and he says, I just don't see myself leaving.
Yeah, I've seen it myself. I started recruiting in 2006 in social housing, and I've seen people go from housing manager level up to chief exec level, and you're right, people don't leave the sector, and I haven't left recruiting in the sector. I've worked for an in-house role for a housing association, and you see that actually the work that you do really can make a difference on the customers. So yeah, totally understand.
Yeah, and I think because we're relatively small organisations, of course we've got a level of bureaucracy and a level of governance, right? Yeah. But we're fairly agile at getting some stuff done. Yeah. So irrespective of what level you're in the organisation, you can impact on positive impact on tenants' lives.
Yeah, absolutely. And are you able to tell us a little bit more about CCHA what you're looking to do within the next maybe 12 months?
Well, so CCHA is a Cardiff-based housing association, community housing association, and we have 3,000 homes and 3,000 families in those homes. So if you take a bird's eye view of Cardiff, our stock broadly runs from south of the city in Bugtown in a southeastern arc out to St Mellons. We have a hugely diverse tenancy population, and one of the key things that we have done and we've managed to achieve over the last few years is actually ensuring that our makeup of our staff actually reflects the tenancies and tenants that we represent and we serve. And I think that's really important. It's about serving our tenants as our customers. In terms of the next 12 months, and this is why, and I've described internally, and people say, you should stop saying this, but I'll say it on camera, was actually, I could go down as the most boring chief executive. Because the reason why I was appointed and the board asked me to become chief executive is we wanted stability. We'd gone through such a lot of turmoil in the previous 4 years reality. So when myself and my brilliant predecessor Hayley Selby joined in March 19, the organisation was still under Welsh Government regulatory intervention. So we had a big turnaround job. So we initially was about just getting ourselves out of regulatory intervention, and then alongside that, and the journey has been about really absolutely getting our tenants back at the centre of what we're trying to do all the time. So, and we haven't, it's not job completed. So what I want to do is absolutely complete that job in the next 12 months and then continue it. So we have a repair service that when we get to a tenant, we get great satisfaction. But we've had a backlog, we've varying backlogs since COVID, big backlog coming out of COVID because we weren't doing repairs, and then we sort it and then it climbs. So we built another backlog, primarily because all the focus that we did around damp and mould, and we have backlog around 700 jobs running outside our target time limit. We're really pleased to say now over the last few months we've got that down. It's down below about 200 jobs now, and by the end of March I want that below 100. So so my focus is running a really, really good repair service, because that is one of the key things that our tenants get really frustrated with around us. And my second focus is equally as operationally boring, but it's so important to our tenants, and that's our estate services. So our estate of 3,000 houses, about 60-70% of those homes have a service charge because they're in blocks of flats, or there's communal areas, or there's grass or something. So, and we have, over the last couple of years, have insourced all those services. So we've gone back to trend in some respects. So we have some fantastic individuals in what we call our Spaces and Places team, which does all the cleaning, the grounds maintenance and so forth. But we know we can actually manage that service a bit better to ensure that when we say we're going to be there on a Wednesday, people are there on a Wednesday to clean and so forth. So we've got to nail that. So that's my absolute focus, and maintaining those key services for tenants will go a long way to drive tenant satisfaction.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, actually, I do a genuine listening to have a look at the website, because you put a blog post out there, didn't you, not so long ago, about your priorities over the next 6 months, and these are elements that you spoke about in there, and it's great to hear that actually you've made headway now with that, and you're seeing the results. So that's great news.
Yeah, thank you. We are pleased, but it's not. What we've got to do is not sit back and think that's job done, because what we have to do is absolutely maintain.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's good to see that, like you said, you're making headway, and there's lots of positives there. But looking at the sector and the landscape, more broadly, what would you say are the challenges that are faced?
I think we face three. From my perspective as a new chief exec, I see three key challenges. First, from an ongoing operational bit. So we have a new Welsh Housing Quality Standard that was released last October, and the ask in that policy document is quite high.
Right.
so we have a Welsh government that's massively supportive of the sector. I'm so grateful for working this side of the board in that respect. But some of the policy aspirations in there are, financially challenging.
Mm-hmm.
So there is a policy aspiration that we develop a target pathway to get to the highest environmental energy rating for our homes.
Mm-hmm.
Many of our homes are never going to get there, and some of the homes can get there, but with huge amounts of investment. Mm-hmm. And so there was a bit of a compromise that said, look, you get to what we call EPCC, which is a really good level of energy performance. And we're all working towards that. And then the policy comes out and says it's EPC plus, which means we have to retain the highest. And what that means for us as an organisation, we thought we had about 60 homes that we needed to do some work on. We now have 960. We think we haven't done a massive cost and exercise, but we reckon that's £3 to £5 million worth of additional expenditure. So there's no additional income for that. So, and there are other things in that policy which if we do everything in that policy, which we absolutely should, means there is money being taken away from elsewhere. So I think that's from an operational perspective. I think that's a key challenge we have as a sector of how we fully implement that policy in a way that absolutely really benefits our tenants. And we mustn't forget our tenants in all this journey.
Yeah.
The second thing is on new build. Building new houses is becoming incredibly difficult. So there's a couple of things going on around this. So the planning process, we have sites in planning that have been in planning longer than we would have taken to build the actual sites out.
Right.
So, and that doesn't help anyone in reality. And I understand planners, there's a moving feast in terms of planning legislation. But what happens is, over the last 4 years, we've seen massive inflation on new builds. So I think, our new builds have probably gone up 40-50% in cost on a square metre basis. And that's coupled with higher interest rates. So sites that were viable 2, 3, 4 years ago are no longer financially viable. And I'm talking across the whole sector, not just, we not a massive delivery of new homes, we try and deliver between 50 and 100 new every year. So we've got the operational issues, we've got the thing, but I mean, most importantly is the cost of living prices and how that's hit our tenants. So all the press will talk about the cost of living prices, or they're not talking about it so much now because inflation's almost solved, which is absolutely not, because that 10-11% inflation is now baked into our everyday living. So our tenants are some of the worst well-off in society, and when the inflation is hit in everyday items, it's disproportionately affecting those individuals. So we see huge amounts, particularly in work poverty, and it so that's a big challenge for us, how we support those with their rent arrears and so forth. So I'm really proud to say we haven't evicted anyone in the last 4 or 5 years for rent arrears, because it's all about sustaining tenancies. Because what do you do if someone runs up? What do you do? They just end up back on the streets, and that creates a problem in itself. So the homelessness situation in and around Wales, but in Cardiff in particular, is absolutely horrendous. Driven a lot by the private landlords pulling out. And so you've got hotels in Cardiff full of families living in rooms. And I'm not just talking for a couple of years, I'm talking for 6 months, 1 year, 1.5 years.
That's right.
And I just think, how can we be such an affluent country and we are treating families like this? Coupled with, and what we've done as well, we've normalised the use of food banks, and I find that incredibly sad.
It is.
So the challenge for us is how we support our tenants through that, above everything else.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, there's a lot to look at, and I guess flipping it the other way, looking at what's happening, there's really positive in the sector at the moment. Looking at it as a broader picture, what do you think is the landscape looks like for the next maybe 12-18 months with the positives that
I think so. Whilst I've talked about the operational difficulties presented to us, and the operational sort of obstacles we need to overcome in terms of that new housing quality standard, the thing that gives me a lot of heart and a lot of hope on that is actually the way that we will address it across organisations in terms of across a number of social landlords. So the hope for me, is actually the way that we collaborate as a sector in Wales, and that's just it just fills my heart with joy in terms of that collaboration piece, because we're all facing similar problems. Actually, what some of the common solutions will be, well, you thought we could do it this way, and but actually a collective voice from about, guys, this is just quite difficult. So that's for me. The next 12-18 months is that continual hope of, having the absolute pleasure and privilege of working in the sector within Wales.
Yeah, that's it. And that's something that I've noticed in recent months is the collaboration, that the consortiums come together and working on different projects. You had the Rent and Homes Act that came in place, and you had housing associations working together to make sure that was all in line, ready for certain dates. There's a lot of work now being done, and I've noticed CCHA have put a lot out there across social media around the D&I, looking at and that's something that's so important, and seeing that you're working with other associations across.
So I can't take credit. So Hayley, my predecessor, drove this agenda initially, and we are carrying that on. So we have two major projects now. We are driving our diversity inclusivity agenda from a view of actually representing our tenants, not for the sake of for the sake of it. So project was devised around getting to housing, and that's for people who are just a little bit away from the workplace, giving them 16-week paid work placement on the real living wage. And so I think that's 7 or 8 of our associations together. We're the host organisation. And that is brilliant, because from the first cohort, the success of those people retaining jobs in housing associations at the end of it is incredible. We're just saying, well, you've got all this untapped resource over here, and over here we're all going, God, recruitment's so difficult. There's loads of people. So this whole grow your own strategy, and I'm, to get that supported at the moment, supported by both Welsh Government and Prince Valley Building Society as well, is incredible.
Yeah, absolutely. And that feeds really nicely into my next question, which would be, what would be your main, maybe 3 top tips for anybody that's looking to work within the sector?
I love the sector. I absolutely love the sector. So firstly, I would say, is actually think of us. We're independent companies. And we're not public sector. We sit sort of in between this public and private sector. So we have that feet-to-foot agility and that commerciality as well. But because we're independent companies of varying sizes, there's probably a role for most people. So we've got our own contained finance, IT, HR, but we've got our housing teams, our financial inclusion teams. We have a maintenance team. We have most of us run our own workforce for doing our maintenance as well. So there's a huge array. So don't think of housing associations, well, I don't want to be a housing officer. It's actually the whole shebang of careers within under one roof. That's the first thing. I think the second thing for me is around because we are agile feet of foot, challenge. If you manage to get into the sector, just challenge the way we do things and say, why do we do that? I talk a lot, we've always done that. And it's like, no, you stop that. And this is not a public sector thing. This is a bureaucracy thing of people coming in and not actively thinking about the jobs. So it's about really coming in with that view of actually, I'm going to do this job better so I can serve my tenants better. And the last thing, the biggest thing, of course, you need some technical skills, whichever discipline you end up going into. But if you really want to be successful in this organisation, because you'll get found out, is you have to believe in social housing as an absolute legitimate strand of the housing market in the UK. I think we've had too many programmes on TV, written in right wing, about the dreadful people that live in social housing. These are the people that saved us during the pandemic. I was no good to man and beast in the pandemic, but these people are actually running our services for us. So you have to come in and go, absolutely, I want to serve these people, again, because otherwise you can act it up for a couple of years, but you will get fed up. So you have to absolutely believe in what we absolutely do.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. And this was going to be my last question, but I do have a final question. So I just wanted to ask you, knowing what you know now, what advice would you give your younger self?
Okay, so I think I've alluded to, I haven't had a career plan. Only two bits of my career was sort of planned. I wanted to become an accountant, and I've sort of sorted that out within the first 3 or 4 years of working. And then I went, and I want to work in one of the, and I'm showing my age now, one of the big 8 accountancy firms.
Yeah, right, okay.
So, and I tick both of those boxes. All my other roles have been tactical. And so I've gone to work in places where I thought, I think I'd enjoy it there. So there's only one, and that's because I got to be transferred to the Welsh one. That's the only one which hasn't been a choice for me. Yeah. So it's about tactical moving into places I think I'll enjoy that job. I'll enjoy that organisation. So my advice to myself is, your career and your happiness in your career is your own responsibility. I come across a lot of people in the workplace, and have done throughout my 2 long years of working, of blaming other people. And yes, people don't get on all the time in work and so forth, and people have a rough ride in work something. But if you're unhappy, just move on. Go somewhere where you're absolutely going to be appreciated. And I'm going to come back to Hayley. Hayley Selby was the best boss I've ever had in my whole career. And the reason I am chief exec now, the sole reason, is because of the confidence she gave me. And I'd already been in the workplace 35 years. Was the confidence that she put into me of, well, she's bloody chief exec, what she can do it. So, and find people who will be your sponsors.
Yeah, that's it.
So that's my first thing. My second thing is, and again, showing my age, is I give myself the biggest piece of advice about the best investment you can make in terms of furniture. I think we all did we're now 20s and 30s, look at that sofa would look like day. Invest in a good mattress.
I'm with you on that. Yeah.
So, because you think about it, you spend 8 hours a night, you spend a third of you a day lying in one place. Yeah. You want to do it on somewhere that's really comfortable. And honestly, the payback, I think I could write a novel, a well-being novel on, and there's something I found in the last sort of 10 years where you guys go, wow, whenever we go away, we go, can we get back to our own bed? Yeah, and honestly, that is such a middle-aged piece of advice for a young son.
I'm with you. I didn't expect that answer, but I'm bought into that. I'm with you all the way on that one, yeah. Well, that was going to be my last question. However, I did want to just end this on a kind of different note. So I know you alluded to the fact that you might be the most boring chief exec. However, I beg to differ. So you are a self-confessed music fanatic.
Yes.
You love your rock and roll music.
Yeah.
Can I ask you, if you had to pick one, what would be the best song over the decades?
I honestly couldn't give you one. I've gone through, like I said, my formative years, I was a massive Iron Maiden fan. I loved it. And strangely, in lockdown, where I ended up listening to a lot of music, working, we all did house studies, so having a time you put music on in the background and you discover some stuff. And bizarrely, I discovered a band that's been massively famous for 20 years or so. I discovered the Foo Fighters.
Oh, yeah.
And I absolutely love the Foo Fighters. And it was just, and the number of concerts me and my best mate have gone to, and which have been cancelled. We bought loads of concert tickets coming out of lockdown because we missed it so much, and we bought tickets for the Foos, and of course Taylor Hawkins, tragically died just before that gig. So, but I did get the Taylor Hawkins tribute stuff in Wembley, and that was special for me because one, I only got tickets on the morning of the gig. I took my youngest lad with me, and he was like, "Do you fancy it? Let's go." And to see, there was such an array of artists that afternoon and evening. So to see Paul McCartney play some live Beatles. Who'd have thought it?
Yeah.
And for me, for those rock aficionados who will get this, to see Dave Grohl play drums with the remaining band members of the band Rush.
Yeah.
And I've seen Rush a few times, and they were my favourite band live. To see them play a 20-minute set, and you're just thinking, these are guys who said they'd never play again since their drummer died. So
Yeah.
I can't give you one song, and my song choices just depends on my mood, but the Foos are out there, and I just can't wait to get to see them in the Principality in the summer.
Yeah, great. Well, Brian, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me and share your background, what CCHA are looking to do over the next 12 months, and for sharing a bit on your music taste. Really enjoyed having you. Thank you.
Thanks, Hannah. Thanks a lot. That's great.